In our second interview at the University of Dundee's Leverhulme Research Centre for Forensic Scientists, we interviewed Dr Oluwasesan Adegoke. Dr Adegoke and I discuss his motivations for working in scientific research and the many different cultures and countries that he has worked in. Enjoy listening. You're listening to Insight, the University of St Andrews Student Physics Society's podcast. I'm your host, Samuel Avery. Join us as we journey into the lives of St Andrews academics, discovering their passions, inspirations, and motivations. So today on Insight, we are visiting the University of Dundee to go to the Leverhulme Research Centre for Forensic Scientists, and we're interviewing Dr Oluwasesan Adegoke.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
So could you tell us a bit about your positions here at Dundee University?
Yes, I'm a postdoctoral research assistant. Well, they love to use that in Scotland, but that's synonymous to being a postdoctoral research associate. So when you finish your PhD, the research you carry out after your PhD is called a postdoctoral research. So that's where I am at the moment. So I'm a postdoctoral researcher in the development of new test tools for forensic analysis.
Okay. And what path led you to your position here at Dundee University?
That's a bit of a fairy tale for me because it brings back a lot of memories. And it started off in 2011 when I had to make a very big decision. Because I was in the UK, I was working in the UK, I was working in the industry, I was practicing as a chemist. And I had this opportunity I was offered a scholarship for a PhD program in South Africa. And I had this big decision to make on, do I want to continue with my job in the UK, or do I want to take up this challenge of going for a PhD in a country I've never been before. So, it started off in 2011 when I started my PhD in South Africa. I was looking at developing sensors using nanomaterials. So I was basically working with trace metals, developing sensors for trace metals and reactive oxygen and nitrogen species. And when I finished my PhD in 2013, I spent 1 year postdoc in South Africa. Then I moved to Japan, and I think that was a turning point also in my decision to come over here to the Leverhulme Research Center for Forensic Science, because when I was in Japan, I spent 2 years in Japan as a postdoctoral researcher, and I was developing quite a range of biosensors for different types of viruses, and that actually expanded my research profile, and I believe it was the pathway that led me here to the Leverhulme Research Center for Forensic Science. When I finished in Japan, I spent roughly I think 8 months as a postdoctoral fellow at Loughborough University in England last year, and I was looking at developing biosensors for bacteria. And it was during that period that I had the opportunity to apply for the job here, and I was offered the job, and the rest is history.
So it's all come full circle.
It's all come true, yeah.
Fantastic. And could you tell us a bit about your research now then?
Yes. My research, I'll put it this way. I'm a chemist, and my research cuts across different spectrum of chemistry, because I combine inorganic chemistry with a little bit of analytical chemistry and with a little bit of physical chemistry, but it's all also all embodied within the domain of nanotechnology. So basically, what I do is I work with light-absorbing nano-based materials and photon-emitting nano-based materials. I synthesize them, I characterize them, I study their optical properties, and I apply them as sensors and biosensors for different target analytes.
Okay, so it's all this nanotechnology research embedded in a chemistry background then.
Yes.
Yeah. And what was it that initially attracted you to working in forensic science then?
That's a very good question, because it had never crossed my mind that I would find myself in forensic science. I know that forensic science does exist, but I've never given it a thought that I'm going to be carrying out research in forensic science, because I'm a chemist. I'm a full-blooded chemist. I've got my BSc in chemistry. I've got my PhD in chemistry. So all my life has been chemistry. But because my research is interdisciplinary, it means that it also cuts across other disciplines, other scientific disciplines. So it could be possible that I could even find myself in physics, carrying out physical research. I could find myself in when I was in Japan. I was in the biotechnology group. So as a chemist, I was finding myself in biology, in biotechnology. And the reason is because of the multidisciplinary aspect of my research, which is nanotechnology, which you can apply in different science and technology. And the decision that made me to actually take up this post as a forensic scientist is because of the skills I have acquired over the years, and the experience that I have, and also the ability to apply these skills in forensic science. And that's why I had to make that decision that, okay, I think this is what I want to go for now. I want to apply my skill in forensic science.
So it's you finding yourself equipped by all this research that you've previously done.
Yes,
so
definitely.
What's your favorite thing in or about your field of research then? Is there anything that makes you think, wow, this is great, this is neat?
So many things I love about my research. And it's very difficult for me to pinpoint something that stands out, because I love everything about my work. But if I'm to dig deep into my research experience and what I enjoy doing, I will say that what stands out and what excites me about my research is the publication part of my work, to contribute to science, to communicate my work to communicate my research work to the scientific community. And that thrills me, because the reason why that thrills me is because it does. It gives me a name within the scientific community. You understand what I mean? It passes the message that I am purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
That I am purposeful. That it also gives that message to the scientific community that that there's a guy called Oluwasesan Adegoke who is also contributing to science, and that thrills me, because everything starts off in the lab,
Mm-hmm.
developing new things, trying to look at loopholes within the field of research that I am engaged in. How do I fill these loopholes? What can I contribute that can be of value to the scientific community? And that all comes together in your publication.
Mm-hmm.
When you publish and pass out and you communicate that science out to the world.
So it's taking all this work that you've done by yourself and then being able to present that to everyone else.
That really thrills me. That
Yeah.
really thrills me. That really thrills me. Yes.
Fantastic. So you've obviously travelled quite far and wide for your research and your education. What's been your motivation when you're choosing where you want to study or work next?
Actually, traveling is not my hobby.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself in different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why I found myself in different countries is because the opportunity has presented itself. And I have also weighed out the opportunities and look at the short term and the long-term benefits. And the most, for me, having found myself in different parts of the world carrying out research, the decision I have made to move from one part of the world to another part of the world has got to do with my future goal of what I actually want to do in the future. But it all starts with, having this opportunity, taking advantage of the opportunity and building your CV. I used to be in the industry before I moved into research. And I told myself, I'm not going back to the industry. I want to remain within the academic domain. I want to engage myself in full-time research. And to be a successful researcher, you need experience.
Mm-hmm.
You need experience. And because at the end of the day, the yardstick that is being used to gauge you as a successful academic is different from the yardstick being used in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be a successful academic, there's a number of skills you need to acquire from the publishing aspect of this, from the publishing aspect of communicating your work to the scientific community. Also, you also have to have the skills to be able to write grant applications and win grant applications. You also have the skill to be able to communicate even your work verbally and orally. And yeah, it's just to be able to build a strong research profile that can catapult me to my goal. That is what has
So let me ask you,
Yeah.
as someone kind of early on in your academic career, how much pressure do you feel to pay attention to how decisions now will affect your career progression later?
Yeah.
Is that something that's always in the forefront of your mind?
Definitely. Decision making is very, very crucial. And I'm going to give you some classical examples about my life where I had to make very, very strong decisions. For example, when I was in, if you remember, I initially told you I was in the industry. I was working with a pharmaceutical company in Cambridge, in England, in 2010. And as I was making preparation to renew my visa, I had to make a big decision to go for my PhD. That was a big decision because at the end of the day, I had to resign my job. I had to write a resignation letter. And it was a big decision because it could have either become a wrong decision or a right decision. So in short, I was taking a risk because sometimes this decision also comes with a risk. And decision making is extremely, extremely important. When I was in Japan, I got a job in the US to work for a professor at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And I thought to myself, is this what I want to do? Because my research, I have two aspects of my research: the materials synthesis and characterization aspect of my research, and the application of these materials in the development of sensors and biosensors. And at the end of the day, I was planning to go to the US, but it didn't work out at the end of the day. And even proud to coming here to the University of Dundee at the Leverhulme Research Center for Forensic Science, it was also a massive, massive decision.
Yeah.
Because I was working at Loughborough, and I've just got a contract extension by my boss, and I got this job. And I was very, very excited when I got the contract extension because I really loved that city, Loughborough, and I loved also the working environment, the flexibility I had in my job. And I had to make a decision. What do I want to do? Do I want to go for the contract extension, or do I want to take up the job here at the University of Dundee? And I had to look at the future. What's going to benefit me more? Is it to stay in Loughborough or to come to Dundee? And I weighed the two options. And I realized that coming over to Dundee was the best option and I decided to take it. So decision making is extremely important because I can either make or mar your future.
Yeah. So it is something that it's always
Yeah,
kind of being considered.
always.
So what kind of impact do you want your research to have on the world? Are you happy if it's only relevant to academics, or do you really want to see like a real world applications of the stuff that you are doing?
I think everybody's goal as a researcher is to make an impact to the world. I don't think there's any active researcher in the world right now that has a kind of streamlined goal. You understand what I mean? A kind of constricted goal. The goal of every researcher, every, how will I put it, research-minded researcher is to make an impact to the world. So that is my goal. I want my research to get to the point whereby I am on the news. I hope it will get there. But that there's been a breakthrough in my lab, in my work, and it's going to revolutionize the world in a particular area. So that's my goal. That's my goal, and I hope I can get there one day.
Best of luck. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
So which place have you visited that's had the biggest impact on your life?
That's a very tricky question because I've been to quite a number of places, and I think looking at taking a survey of the places I have been, I will give my time in Japan the hallmark of the most exciting place that I have been and that has had a big impact in my life and in my future. My time in Japan was extremely interesting because it was a new environment, a new culture, a new mentality, a new set of human beings that I've never encountered before in my life, and everything was different. Because I had lived in the UK, proud to that. I have lived in South Africa, proud to that. I had lived in Germany, proud to that. I've been to some other places. So Japan was a completely different environment, because I was in an environment that they were not very used to black people. So black people, so adapting in that kind of environment, and also the working culture of the Japanese is completely different, extremely different. And I had to adapt to all those things within 2 years. And I believe that had the greatest impact in my life.
So just because everything was so new,
everything was new.
Had that extra impact.
Everything was new. The working culture was different. The cultural belief was different. The mentality was different.
Yeah.
The environment was different. Everything was different. Yeah.
And that led to a big impact.
Yeah.
So looking to the future, are there any countries that you would like the opportunity to research in?
Not really. I think I've reached a stage in my life now whereby I am happy about where I am. I'm happy with my current state of development. I'm not really looking forward to any country in the world because,
as you said earlier, it seems these opportunities almost present themselves.
Yes.
It's not that you're seeking them out necessarily.
Yeah.
So you finished your undergraduate degree relatively recently, the 2000s. But is there anything that students have today that you wish you had when you were doing your undergraduate degree? Definitely.
When I was doing my undergraduate degree, I started my undergraduate degree in 2002. I started very late, 6 years after I finished my high school, because I was struggling to pass my my entrance exams to be able to be qualified to start my undergraduate degree. So that took me 6 years. So I started my undergraduate degree in 2002. And when I look back at what I was exposed to when I was studying during my undergraduate degree, and the kind of structural development we had then, I would say that I wished that in those days, we had the computer, the laptops that is being used, the technology, the electronic technology being used nowadays to study, and because I've got a 5-year-old girl, and I've got a 7-year-old boy, and they both have tablets. Mm-hmm. I didn't have tablets in those days because my son, for example, uses his tablet sometimes for his schoolwork, and he's 7 years old. In those days, we didn't have that, and I remember in those days when I was doing my undergrad, we still used the whiteboard. We didn't use PowerPoint presentations. There were no courseworks. It was more of theoretical learning, and we had to cram a lot of things. And I think because when I came to England, when I came to England to do my masters, I could see that the academic learning environment was completely different. It was more or less like a contrast to what I was exposed. So I would prefer that in those days that we had the technology that is available right now to aid our learning, to help our learning, and to also speed our knowledge.
So the way that this digital technology is advanced is extremely beneficial.
Extremely beneficial.
So obviously, when you're in your undergraduate degree, everyone forms some perceptions about their lecturers and the academics that they interact with. So now that you do research yourself, have any of these perceptions kind of changed with time, do you think?
Not really. I don't really think that I had a kind of maybe negative bias about my
not necessarily a negative perception.
Perception about my my lecturers. I don't really think I have anything to say to that because at the end of the day, the lecturers are doing their job. They are doing their job, and the job is to teach. And what I just realized during my undergraduate studies that there was not this very close relationship between the student and the lecturer. It was more or less that the lecturers were, in those days, when I was in my country, when I was doing my undergraduate, they were more or less like untouchable, unapproachable. You understand what I mean? That they were just up there, and you can't just easily get access to them, and I think that's wrong. That's wrong. And when I had the opportunity to leave my country to come and study overseas, I discovered that it's possible for you to have a close relationship with your supervisor or your lecturers, and especially when you've got a very serious question about what is being taught in class, and also helps the student to feel that they have, the lecturer who is teaching them as an approachable person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
so. It's not necessarily perceptions that have changed with time, but just from place to place more.
Yeah. Definitely.
So what's one of your qualities that you think has really helped you in life so far? That could be intelligence or persistence or charisma. What's something that you think has helped you out?
I think one of the things that have helped me so far in life is I will start with the strong desire that I have to make an impact. I am not always comfortable with where I am. I always want to go higher. I want to, achieve more. And I think that's part of what has really helped me. I don't tend to remain in my comfort zone because I've come to realize that if you are going to be a successful academic or a successful researcher, you have to be hungry. You have to be hungry to be successful. You have to be hungry to make an impact. I think this is part of what has helped me. I'm a very hungry person. Anywhere I am, I really want to make a statement that I am not just here to get the monthly salary. I am here to make an impact. And what drives me is hard work.
So it's this drive, this ambition, and that's affecting the way that you approach.
I am over-ambitious. Over-ambitious.
So how do you celebrate your research going well? Do you have a drink? Do you
No,
have
I don't.
cake?
No,
Do
I
you-
don't. I don't do anything. Apparently, when I get my papers, my manuscripts published, and I'm just naturally happy, and I don't see that as the hallmark of achievement. I always see everything that has been achieved as a step to achieve more. So I don't get to the pub and start drinking and start celebrating. No, I don't do that. I always see anything I've achieved as a starting point.
So small pat on the back and then
I'm
move on
telling
to the
you,
next thing.
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
How much do you try to immerse yourself in the culture of the places that you go to work or learn? Because you've been to Germany, the
Yeah,
UK, Japan.
yeah.
What do you try and do things that you can only do in Germany or Japan when you get there?
Let me give you an example. When I was in Japan, the first thing that struck me in Japan was the working culture. In Japan, the working culture is different from the UK. Let me use the UK as a classical comparison. And because the Japanese believe that the time you spend in the office amount to your hard work. Just your presence, that you are not going home early. It's not about 9 to 5. It's about the amount of time you spend in the office. That's the mentality of the Japanese. And they believe that if you spend a lot of time, then you are hardworking. And when I go to Japan, my boss, my host supervisor told me, it's 8. You have to come in 8 o'clock. And you have to leave 8 p.m. I said, 12 hours? I told him no. I'm not used to that. He said, that's the principle here. Unfortunately, I didn't adapt to it. I made him to realize that I'm going to do my best. I'm going to work hard, but I cannot adapt to this time. You understand? In some places, I have to adapt. The reason why I didn't adapt to that time because I felt that it was not necessary. I wanted my flexibility. I wanted to be able to choose my own time. But when I came here to the Leverhulme Research Center for Forensic Science, I could understand the ethical requirements of the research center, and I understand that this is a forensic lab. Things have to be controlled, and it's a 9 to 5 job. I understand that, and I've stuck to that because I understand it. But when I was in Japan, 8 to 8, I didn't buy that. I didn't buy it. When I was in Loughborough, the working environment is also different from what I have to adapt to here at the Leverhulme Research Center for Forensic Science. But I could also understand the environment. The environment, sometimes you have to understand your environment. The environment is different. When I was at Loughborough University, it was more of your own time. You choose your own time. So sometimes I come in the afternoon. I leave very late in the evening. Sometimes I come very early in the morning and I leave in the evening. So I was managing my own time. I was managing my own my own project. So for me to conclude, it varies from environment to environment. It varies from it just varies. So you cannot really compare. You have to look at the environment you are and the need of that environment, and you try to adapt to it.
So it's about, a give and take where you need to change a bit, but to fit the environment, but you need to do your best work.
You also need to do your best work, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you've been trying or want to try out whilst you're in Scotland, whether that's hiking or eating haggis in god-awful amounts or anything else?
I'm always scared of so many things. I'm scared of heights. I'm scared of water. And
you still decided to come to Scotland?
I decided to come to Scotland. And yes. And the reason why I decided to come to Scotland was I remembered back in 2007 when I came to study for my master's in England at the University of Nottingham. I had friends from I had European friends, one from Estonia, some from Germany, one from Austria, one from Italy. And I remember that there was a trip they had to Edinburgh, and I was invited to the trip. Skiing. I think it was skiing. I don't know. I don't know, diving, or I don't know exactly what the trip was all about. And I was hearing so many exciting things about Edinburgh, that it's a beautiful city. It's an ancient city. And I've never forgotten that. Although I didn't follow them for the trip, but I never forgot what they told me about Scotland. So I was really looking forward to coming to Scotland. I would like to visit museums and look at the historic artifacts, and just get a feel of the rich history of Scotland in museums. I'll be looking forward to that. I know there was a museum that was opened here in Dundee.
Yes,
I've not visited it yet.
The very new V&A.
I'm planning to take my family there one of these days, probably by the end of the year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that, but not going up the mountain and skydiving and
nothing crazy like that. No, that's lovely though.
Yeah.
So we're moving on to quickfire questions, so you can answer these a bit quicker. But feel free to expand upon your answers if you want to do that. So do you have a favorite music genre and a favorite song?
Well, I was thinking about this question, and the way I will answer this question is when I was much younger than this, in my teen age, I used to listen to secular musics, and after some time I stopped listening to secular music, hip-hops and raps and all this kind of music. And the reason why I stopped is because of my religious beliefs. Because I'm a Christian, and I spend most of my time over the years listening to gospel music. So I spend all my time listening to gospel music. I don't have any favorite song. If it's a gospel music, I love it.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have a favorite book?
I don't also have a favorite book, and because when I was similar to what I said about my favorite music, when I was much younger than my age, in my teen age, I used to read the Hadley Chase series. I can't remember precisely. I read a couple of the books, the novel about dukes and duchesses and knights, and all these English kind of royal titles. I can't remember precisely. I never had any favorite book, and
but
as I grew up, I lost interest in reading novels. I lost complete interest. When I began to get myself more into research, I spent most of my time thinking about how to have a research breakthrough. So at the moment, I have no favorite book.
No favorite?
None.
Do you have a favorite piece of fruit? No one goes off fruit.
Yes.
Everyone likes fruit.
Everyone likes fruit. Sincerely, my favorite fruit is mango.
That's a good choice.
I love mangoes.
How often do you procrastinate? Are you someone who puts things off, or do you just go straight for it and get it done and out of the way?
That's a very tricky question, because I think it's a bit of both. Procrastinating sometimes and getting things done. I put myself in between that line.
Some of both.
Yeah.
So do you prefer to have your time filled with plans, or do you go with the flow and kind of see what happens?
No, I always like my time to be filled with plans.
Everything's set out in order.
Yeah.
Do you have any good luck practices or items?
I do not believe in good luck or good luck items. I don't believe in it. Never.
No.
I don't have.
No place for it in life.
Yes.
What is your most annoying habit?
Yes. I've got an annoying habit. And my most annoying habit is dozing off during meetings. I do that a lot. Everybody that has sat beside me, I've always seen that I've dozed off during during a presentation or during a meeting, and
You
I'm
need a
off.
friend to keep you awake, elbow you in the ribs.
Yeah.
Would you rather learn another human language or another programming language?
I would prefer to learn another woman language.
Which one? Have you got one lined out?
I would like maybe French.
It's a
maybe
good choice,
French.
yeah.
Yeah.
You want to go south across the
Yeah.
channel. So, finishing questions, so please take your time to answer if you want. Is there anything in common that you've noticed in the academics and researchers that you've worked with worldwide?
Yes, there's something I've noticed. And I've been very fortunate to work with researchers and academics that are very much research driven. And what I've noticed basically is that each of the academic I've worked with, I've always seen this hunger in them to produce papers in their research, communicate their work scientifically in form of a publication. I've seen it everywhere. I have seen it everywhere. And it doesn't change. It doesn't change.
It's that drive to share the knowledge.
It's that drive to
accrued.
be able to publish your work, get it outside to the scientific community, get it outside to the world, let the world know that you exist.
And that's a good thing to,
Yeah,
to
definitely.
have, I think. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, Dr.
I appreciate it.
Olu Adegoke.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You've been listening to Insight, the University of St Andrews Student Physics Society's podcast. I was your host, Samuel Lavery. Thanks to all the wonderful academics of St Andrews. Join us in the future as we learn more of the people making our education. This podcast was produced by myself and our publicity officer, Connor McBride. To find out more about the Physics Society and what we do, please find us on Facebook or Google St Andrews Physics Society for our website. Goodbye.